Hello, friends, and welcome to Monday's Kings of Anglia podcast. Welcome to November, the long nights drawing in, darkness all around us. But today, friends, yes, Town did lose at the weekend. I'm going to try and stay positive for most of today's pod because let's not forget it was the league leaders, and we'll get to breaking that down in due course. I am Mark Heath, and one of the main reasons to remain positive today, friends, is because we have returning from a great week away in Scotland, the Doctor, Stuart Watson. Friend, how are you? How was your break? Tell us all about it now.
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, had a very nice holiday up in Scotland. Nice to switch off from social media and work, and back refreshed, ready to go again. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
What was the highlight, Stu? Because Scotland, as we've discussed many times on this pod, is one of our personal favourite locations. What was the best thing that you did?
The highlight undoubtedly was we went up into the Cairngorms and we trekked out to hand feed wild reindeer, which
Wow.
Our 5-year-old daughter was found very magical. So yeah, lovely memories.
Christmassy themed as well. Not too long now, of course, before the old Saint Nick comes down the chimney. So did you tell her it was Christmas related?
We told her that some of Father Christmas's reindeers were there on their holidays.
Excellent.
Which obviously they were. So
yeah, superb. Big game coming up for those boys. Hopefully you stocked them up well on carbs and protein supplements. Someone who's a big fan of carbs and protein supplements, I'm assuming. Hutch Hogan, Hutchzilla, David Hutchelhoff, Adolf Hutchler, Michael Hutchins. I think that's it. Scandi Warren. Andy, how are you?
I've never had a protein supplement in my life.
You've had a steak?
Is that a supplement?
Well, probably not.
That's a main.
Yeah, reindeer, by the way. Very high in protein. That's good for you. Obviously, don't speak to Aya about eating Rudolph and Donna and Blitzen, Stewie. But yeah, right. If you get the chance, reindeer, good for you, mate.
Did you not spear one and just take it back to your Airbnb with you?
Lob it over the shoulder.
I think that might have been frowned upon.
Andy, how are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, very well. Glad to have Stu back. I missed him.
It's good, isn't it, to have all four of us together? Mike is currently off, so we haven't got all five, but all four together today is fantastic. Rossi, you are the fourth wheel on the KOA bus. You've just spent a weekend away in Plymouth. Tell us all about it, because you obviously were there Friday night in our luxurious hotel with Hutchie and Brenner and Warren the Moan Page, our photographer. I'm sure that was big things, bringing the sexy to Plymouth. And then you stayed over for the ladies yesterday, who absolutely murdered another side. We'll come on to that in due course. How was your weekend?
It was very nice, minus the defeat on Saturday. But I was in the same hotel, back-to-back nights, thankfully.
Nice.
So same room, kept the room. It was very nice. I'm going to be a bit childish here, but I went to the Plymouth Hoe. And also there's a Hoe Street and a Hoe Approach. So, yeah. That's it.
It's the big takeaway of Ross's weekend.
Ross went to Plymouth and he comes back and he's excited because there was a Hoe Street. Excellent. Boys, obviously, as I mentioned at the top of this pod, Ipswich Town went to the league leaders in a good run of form. They unfortunately lost to the league leaders 2-1 at Plymouth. And I think there's a danger often on these shows, and certainly as a football fan, that you're a bit up and down. A bit like you might see on the old sea around Plymouth back in the day, the Armada and all that. I want to try and remain positive today, because let's not forget that Town were and are in a good run of form still. They have just lost to the league leaders, but they did push them all the way, and some would argue deserved at least a point from that game. So I'm going to try and remain positive ahead of the trip to third place Wycombe tomorrow night. Hutchie, you were there with Roscoe. What are your thoughts? Am I right to remain positive after that game?
I've never known. I don't think I've ever known a post-match interview with a manager to kind of nail the game quite as perfectly as Paul Cook did after this one. He acknowledged that his side had some good moments. He acknowledged that his side took the lead and that was a great point for them in the game. And then he acknowledged that they conceded 2 silly goals at 2 rubbish times and then missed the chances to get the draw they probably deserved. And I think if you want an accurate summary of the game, this isn't always the case. And with previous managers here, it certainly was not the case. But just read what Paul Cook had to say, or listen to his interview after the game, because he absolutely nailed how that match went. We'd be coming away from a 2-2 draw, thinking about it really quite positively, and they did enough to get that. They just didn't put the final touch to put the ball in the net. Obviously, some worries. Repeated theme of conceding silly goals at silly times. That's not gone away. But had the goal scoring form that they've been in all season continued in this game, they'd have come away with something from a really good game at the league leaders. So I think, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? You kind of, we're with Ipswich Town. You expect that you have to feel kind of like the world is caving in after every defeat, because there's been so many of them over so many years. But in the cold light of day, I don't think there's any drama here. That's my thoughts on it all.
No drama here. Excellent title for the podcast, perhaps, actually, when you upload it later on. Let's rewind all the way back to 2 p.m.
Make a little note of that.
Let's rewind all the way back to 2 p.m. Saturday. You'd spoke to Cook on Friday morning, Hutchie, and we talked about injury issues, which meant there were going to be some changes. Obviously, he didn't tell us who was injured and what that might be. When I saw the team at 2 p.m., I was kind of like, what? What team is that? Who's playing where? Is it 4-2-3-1? It must be, but that means, hold on, is Coulson on the wing? Where's he playing? And Wolfenden at right back? What's going on here? Stewie, obviously you weren't in touch at that point, but you've since caught up. What did you make of the team? We know that they lost Donatian and Burns on the morning of the game, which is a big blow. Clearly their right side gone there, and Aluko was out injured already. But bringing Wolfie in to play right back and then sticking Coulson ahead of him on the wing, was that a surprise for you to see?
Yeah, I've only seen it sort of subsequently after the game, so I didn't, obviously, from what I gather, Paul Cook was his usual guarded self in terms of there's some injuries, but we don't know we wouldn't say who they were. So I didn't have that sort of 2 p.m. feeling of what's going on here. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, there were players not available. Was Kane Vincent-Young part of the initial travelling party? If Donatian's injury was quite... Andy's shaking his head. So if Donatian's illness was on the morning of the game, maybe it might have been Kane Vincent-Young if they'd have known that a little bit earlier, like for like, possibly. I don't know. But yeah, I think they were big misses, those players, in context of it being a tricky fixture and the fact that they were all sort of concentrated down that right-hand side, which has been a strength for Ipswich. So there is that caveat in terms of this defeat as well, no doubt about it.
What did you make of the side, Rossi? Would you, I mean, on the bringing Coulson in, who's not really played for a while, obviously been out injured, and then sticking him on the right wing, essentially. I guess that's the one that had a lot of people scratching their head. When you think of all the places they've got options, that would be a place they could bring pretty much anyone in. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I had to double check. Of course, Hutchie came down and said, "Yeah, he told me, yeah, can you guess? Can you guess? I didn't see the lineup. I don't normally check until they read it out or get the team sheet. And when he told me, I was trying to guess. I was like, I don't know. I said Aluko, and then I found out he was injured anyway. But then I hear that Paul Cook likes a right winger to have both feet and wrong-footed. I don't know where I'm going. I'm going into a different hole.
Always good to have 2 feet.
As a footballer and generally in life, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, you got... I know Caden Jackson, Lou Barron, they haven't played many football, but they could play on the right. Definitely Caden Jackson. I know he's not, a big favourite of Paul Cook's, and I think some fans are not a big fan of him either, but... he's got the pace there, and I think that's sometimes handy for a winger to have pace. But I thought Coulson did a good job. But he's been unfit, he's been injured. So to chuck him into this big game against Plymouth, against top of the league, I thought he did it right though. But a left wing back, right back, I don't know. There we go.
He has played there before. I remember doing the profile piece on Hayden Coulson when he signed, and he's played everywhere. I mean, he was playing. Neil Warnock tried him as a number 10 towards the back end of last season. In some of those early loan spells in his career, I think he went to Cambridge and he was up in Scotland. I think he played on the right wing quite a bit there. He's played further forward. It's only sort of in more recent times that he's become this kind of proper out-and-out left back. So he has played there before. Maybe tactically thought that it was going to provide a bit more defensive cover against a team that are flying and still are flying. What was the other option? You go with Selena, who's maybe feeling on a bit of a high after scoring his late winner. Chaplin, as we've discussed, has made that number 10 position his own. So Selena on the left and shift Edwards across to the right, which I think ultimately is how they finished the game. Andy, is that?
That's how they finished. That's how they finished the game. I do think his hands were tied on this one. Kane Vincent-Young wasn't there. If this was a game away at Charlton, for example, you probably would get Kane Vincent-Young down there. You can't do that in Plymouth. It just doesn't. It just can't happen. You can't bust players in at that late notice to cover like the whole right side of the team being missing. He knew about Aluko on early. He didn't. He don't think he travelled. So I imagine the plan would be Burns and Janoi Donatian on that right side, and to lose them both on the morning of the game. I think they travelled back together. Like as the match was kicking off, they were in a car in a little sick mobile going back up to Ipswich together. To lose it that late, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that a three of Selena, Chaplin, and Edwards in any sort of shuffled formation was necessarily what was needed in this game. We've seen that Plymouth left side tear Paul Lambert's Ipswich to pieces before. It's a really dangerous part of their team, and I think Wolfenden needed that little bit of cover. I'm not sure it worked as he had hoped it would, but I think this is one that you just have to chalk up for Paul Cook as being just a nightmare scenario that he did what he needed to do to limit the damage. Sadly, these things happen.
All right. Well, let's be positive now, then, shall we? So, set against that background, losing two of your key players on the morning of the game, having to shuffle the pack and not having all the cards available to you, Town went on. They took the lead. And gave as good as they got pretty much all game, didn't they? As you said at the start, Hutchie, if this ended 2-2, it would have been a pretty fair result. So give me some positives for you from this game. What did you like about Town?
If you were there, you'd have absolutely loved it. It was a proper football match. The atmosphere was brilliant. The stands were packed. Both sets of fans were in really good form. Brilliant tributes to Paul Mariner before the game, which looked great. And I don't know, I can't remember a football match that has started at such a pace as this one. It was absolutely ridiculous. The speed with which this game began with Coulson and Bonn kind of fashioned a chance between them a couple of minutes in that they should have scored. I think Coulson should have had a shot. If it was another player in that position, he would have shot, but ultimately his touch took him a bit wide. And then once there, he made the right decision to square for Bonn. Who should have scored, probably, but some good defending. And then straight down the other end, and Plymouth should have scored with Hardy forcing a really good save from Walton. It was a brilliant game to watch. And then Ipswich took the lead, and you're thinking, this is on here because they were more than in the game. They were more than a match for Plymouth. A really good goal, a brilliant ball back in from Morsey from a corner that was kept alive. Good header from Edmondson. And if they'd just got it to half time, they'd have got something from this game. They really would. But sadly, they didn't.
How many times have we said that this season, do you think? If they'd have just got to half time, I'm sure that's been said 3 or 4 times at least this season. Rossi, you were there obviously as well. I'm not going to come to Stu too much on the actual game because he wasn't there. Give me some positives from it. What did you like about Town this game?
Taking the lead again, which is good when you're taking on top of the league at Plymouth, a packed home park stadium. I think that's the great start that we wanted. Really, I think just quiet them down a little bit because they were buzzing. The great tribute to Paul Mariner, which was great, but they were really up for this game. And then we quieted them down straight away when we got our goal. And I thought, okay, here we go. We're on our way here. We're on our way and all that. But then, the half time was the killer punch, weren't it, when they equalised. But no, I was really impressed. George Edmondson, he's just impressing me every week. The fridge, getting another set piece goal, which I like to see. Someone scoring headers. But just the overall, just the fans as well. Got to give them credit. A long way to go. A long way to go. I know some of them are coming from maybe Southwest anyway, but a long way to go on a Saturday, and a lot of them stay behind for the women's game as well. But Just the tribute was just fantastic, and everyone did their bit, holding up the green and white and the blue and white. You know, getting the 9 and 9, and then the Mariner. But that made it a special day. But yeah, the positive was we took the lead, quieted them down, and then the rest happened.
Yeah, it looked great, by the way. The Mariner tribute from the pictures I've seen, really, really good. Great.
It's amazing what you can do with carrier bags. That's all that was just bits of plastic. It's pretty remarkable what you can do with that.
Yeah. Hutchie, let's talk. I mean, obviously, we have to talk a little bit about the negatives. Town did then concede, as they so often do before half time. The goal was a pretty poor goal to concede, wasn't it? I'm not entirely sure what Matt Penny was doing there. Kind of waiting for it to come to him, and then someone just nipped in front of him.
Yeah, it was a rubbish goal to concede, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sat off far too much on that one and didn't attack the ball until it was way too late. Walton made a really good save to deny that initially, but Luke Jeffcoat was just there to tap the ball in Ipswich. To be fair, the Ipswich defence didn't react as quickly as Jeffcoat did either to that situation. It's a pretty rubbish goal to concede, really. And then the task is right, fine. You have to accept that Plymouth were going to score in this game. They're the league leaders. They're a good team. They score goals. They haven't lost since the opening day. They were always going to score in this game. You had to feel, but then the job is to take the sting out of them at the start of the second half, and they didn't do that either. Conceding after 5 minutes of that. Comes from a throw-in. You're never happy when a throw-in is the kind of the root source of a goal. They got pulled about a little bit, and a through ball allowed Grant to stick it in the net. And 2 goals, 2 rubbish pieces of timing, and that makes things difficult.
Yeah, and then obviously Town go on. They do have chances late on, though, don't they, Rossi?
Yeah.
And had they taken them, a draw would have been the kind of least they deserve, really.
I think so, definitely. And like Macaulay Bonne, one chance he had, my boy.
Drop him. He's not scored for how long is it? 2 games. Get rid of him.
Yeah. He had one hell of a chance in the second half. I thought that this is a go-to Macaulay Bonne chance. Poacher goal. Raheem Harper, he was through, had an opportunity to score as well. I think he should have done better there, really. But yeah, just not taking our chances. We had probably 3 or 4 moments in the game in the last 2 minutes or so. Really, we could stole an equaliser because Plymouth were just playing their game. They were just happy, I think, to sit back, win the game 2-1, and then we came to life in the final, 5 minutes. And because I'm a bit disappointed with Plymouth fans. Really, they were a bit quiet. They were 2-1 up, and they were a bit quiet. And then when we came to life, then they came to life, and it was a really good end of the game, and we just couldn't find that equaliser, which would have been what we deserved. I don't know. We're probably going to bring him up in a minute, but the referee, dearie me, he was not good, was he?
Well, shall we talk about him? Because I was going to ask you about. I know on the game day video, pretty much every single fan mentioned the ref. Some suggesting it cost him at least a point. Hutchie, is that a fair assessment? The ref didn't have his best day, did he?
I'm not. I don't know. I didn't feel like the foul count was huge in Ipswich's, I suppose, favour in terms of the fouls given away. They were quite niggly, Ipswich. I don't know. I didn't come away from it feeling like the referee cost them. I won't lie. He was a lot busier in Plymouth's favour, but I think Morsey in particular kind of is that kind of player. He likes a little niggle, and that's why he's creeping towards the magic suspension mark. It's not too far away. There were some slightly odd ones in there, but I'll be honest. I didn't come away feeling that he had cost Ipswich. That I know that doesn't necessarily chime with how people in the away end might have seen it. But for me, I didn't think he was a factor particularly, although obviously the foul count was hugely in Plymouth's favour.
Okay, fair enough. Stuart, if I can bring you in here for a general overview of Town situation. Since you've been away, they beat Fleetwood 2-1, and then obviously they've gone and lost at the league leaders Plymouth 2-1 in a game that many people would say they deserved at least a point from. Can we just reflect on how far they've come, though, since the days of losing 5-2 at home to Bolton? They've just gone to the league leaders, a side who haven't lost since the opening day, are bang in form, by any accounts, by any measurement. And we're sitting here saying that Town pushed them all the way and probably should have had a point.
Yeah,
they're really up.
There's ways to lose football matches, isn't
Yeah.
there? And I think the disappointing thing of the not too distant past was there was just really flat, insipid ways of losing football matches. And by all accounts, from what Andy and Ross are saying, they've gone to Plymouth with injury problems sprung on them at the last minute, and they've given it a really good go. And I look at those chances, some really big chances in there. And the big factor for me is I really look forward to watching Ipswich play. I can't wait to go to Wycombe tomorrow night, because you feel like there's goals in Ipswich. You feel like they can win football matches, and they have won football matches. It still is 5 wins in 9, I think it is, from that Lincoln game onwards. The Accrington defeat was a really tough pill to swallow, because you felt like it was a really off day at the office and they didn't compete and they didn't do all of those things. But sometimes you just get a really good football match. It's just fine margins, and this one just happened to go Plymouth's way on the day. And Ipswich are going to lose games along the way. Yes, they suddenly get back-to-back wins and everyone's on a massive high, and we have got to it's really hard, because the job of a football fan is to ride that emotional roller coaster, and those within football are the ones that try and keep it on an even keel. But I said quite a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if there necessarily will be a lift-off moment. That's a conversation Andy and I had a little while ago, that suddenly Ipswich click and they get it right and they become this unstoppable force. I think, win more than they lose as you go along. I suppose that Fleetwood game could easily have ended in a draw if it hadn't have been that last-minute goal. This one could have been a draw against Plymouth and you'd be talking about 2 points. And instead they've got 3 points. So the fact there's goals in them, the fact that they can win games, hopefully recent form shows that they're going to win more than they lose. And we just sometimes, as Paul Cook says, just lick your wounds after these sort of games and move on to the next one. So let's see what the reaction's like tomorrow.
It's the pains of the past, isn't it, that I feel like kind of frame these as kind of in a negative light sometimes, because we've had 2 seasons of not being able to beat the leaders, the top teams in the division under Paul Lambert. But this was so different to that. Those games under Paul Lambert, I'm sure you remember sitting through them, Stu. Charlton at home, Hull. Ipswich couldn't lay a glove on these teams. They were at arm's length for 90 minutes, whereas this was anything but that. They landed punches, but just couldn't give the knockout blow. You like that, Mark? That's fighting.
I do. There's no stepping on throats.
Exactly. So that's very different. And I don't know. It's and then everything you look at it as well. Like they've got all this ground. They've got ground to make up. Obviously, you lose a game, that ground gets bigger. That makes the defeats feel that little bit more painful. Had they taken the points you'd have expected them to take from the 4 promoted sides, the games they lost with at Cheltenham and Accrington and things like that, then you wouldn't feel any real pangs of negativity coming out of this one at all, would you? Because it is a narrow loss to the leaders. And then you go to Wycombe, and just as Stu said there, it could have been 2 points from 2 games against Fleetwood and Plymouth. You now go to Wycombe. I think I'd have taken 2 points for Ipswich from the Plymouth and the Wycombe games going into them. You now go to Wycombe and you can win that and have a better return than most people would probably have accepted before that you got on the bus. So it's all about framing, isn't it? But like Stu says, it's enjoyable to go and watch. And as much as we want results as well, that's massive. That's why the crowds are still so big at Portman Road. That's why so many fans are going to these away games. It's enjoyable, thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, I think we sometimes forget that, don't we? Particularly as football fans, that teams are going to lose games, no matter how good they are. Teams do lose games. Losing is part of sport. And it's the nature of it, isn't it? And how they lose games. And in this case, they've got an opportunity to bounce back again at Wycombe tomorrow night and really make another statement. Stu, I'm not sure how many times that sentence has been uttered. I can't wait to go to Wycombe. But we just started it there. Hutchie, before we move on from this game, Plymouth league leaders, as I say, not lost since opening day. Absolutely bang at the races. What did you make of them as a team? And can you see them being up there come the end of the season still?
Yep, I like them. Relentless. They play at a high tempo. They push. They've got quality in areas of the pitch that they make the 3-man backline work quite well. Ipswich did well to break that down at times. I thought the left side's strong. I like the 2 strikers. They've got some power in the middle of the pitch, and they've got a building fan momentum behind them. That was the biggest crowd Plymouth have had at home park since 2008.
Wow.
It's I think they will be in the mix at the end of the season. It's going to be an almighty ask for them to stay at the top of the league. I don't think they're going to bulldoze the league from this point by any means, but I think they will firmly be in that promotion mix at the end of the season, which not many would have had them being in back in July and August.
Didn't one of us? It wasn't me, obviously, but didn't one of us pick Plymouth as a dark horse? Have I made that up, Rossi? Did you say Plymouth? I'm sure someone said Plymouth.
Yeah. Sorry, Plymouth. I thought they've got that when I was speaking to some Plymouth journalists and stuff, and the only problem last year was just their defence. They were so young, they were conceding too many soft goals. They signed James Wilson, and he's shored out the defence. I think they signed Scar from Walsall, and they just got some more experienced heads. And Ron Lowe, really good manager, just got a good overall good squad. So they probably won't be there end of the season, but yeah, I'm happy my dark horses are doing all right. But hopefully they won't be above Town. But it is what it is at the moment.
Good shout, Rossi. On that note, before we move on, James Wilson, obviously, formerly of this parish. Connor Grant got a goal, formerly of this parish, on loan. What did you make of those two? How did they look?
Wilson was James Wilson. He was exactly as he was pretty much every week for Ipswich. Very solid, got his job done. Connor Grant is a very different player to the one that I remember at Ipswich. I wasn't watching Ipswich every week at that point. I was dipping in and out, watching them occasionally, but he looked a bit of kind of a one-paced midfielder at that point to me. Didn't play an awful lot, did he? But in this, he's kind of reinvented himself now. He plays at a tempo. He's got a really good left foot, and he drifts around, picks up possession, and is quite direct when he then gets on the ball. So he's a good little player.
Super. Right, let's draw a line under Plymouth. They lost, but they have a chance to go again at Wycombe tomorrow night, and we'll get down to that game shortly. Just a reminder to support our sponsor, Manscaped. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery of all the excellent clobber they've got there. That's the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery. Boys, 2 of us are parents of young children. So as an aside, were you doing any Halloween-esque business last night, boys? Was there any trick-and-treating going on in your road, in your neck of the woods? Stewie?
We're quite remote where we are, but we'd our daughter's 5 and she wanted to go out for the first time, so we just had a little knock on the neighbours' doors, pre-warned them, and she enjoyed it.
What's the going kind of stuff now for trick and treat? Is it gone up since I was trick and treating as a lad? Do you get more? Do you get whole chocolate bars now? That kind of vibe?
I don't know. We got lots of lollipops and sweets and stuff like that. But we were very firm that she couldn't consume them all and go to bed sort of jacked up on sugar last night or before the return to school this morning. So
do you dress up?
That's to come.
Do you dress up because obviously Halloween now, as everything seems to be in this country, seems to be getting bigger and bigger in line with America. Lots more dressing up and going out on the streets and stuff. Is it a dress up in the Watson and Warren household occasion, boys?
No, not really. Not Halloween's never been something I've really done, I'm afraid. So I've got nothing. I've got nothing for you. She has got a T-shirt with some skeleton bones on it.
There you go.
But yeah, no, not really much of that going on. Sorry,
boys. In the spirit of this Halloween chat, do you want to hear some scary stats? See what I've done there? I've just put in Carl Fuller's column, and Carl's big on his stats. And I thought I'd note these down because they are worrying / scary in the theme of Halloween. So in Carl's column, which you can read online at midday, that's Monday, and in print tomorrow, he points out that Town have led and then lost the lead in almost 50% of games this season. The 54%, boys, of the goals that Town have conceded this season have either come within 5 minutes of Town scoring, within a 5-minute window before or after half time, or 5 minutes before full time, which is quite a stark thing. And also, obviously, that old stat which keeps rearing its head, Town's record against the top 10, which obviously can be updated now. They've lost to Plymouth. Since 2019, they've played 41 games against sides in the top 10, and they've won 6. They've taken 32 points out of a possible 123 against sides in the top 10. So those are some scary stats, boys. Hutchie, give me your takeaway from that. Clearly, we know where the problems are at Town, don't we? Shouldn't then be that hard to sort out, should it?
Not too bothered about the last one of those because most of that is from a past regime. So I'm not too bothered. I'm not too bothered about that. We've already seen this weekend that in terms of they've obviously, I know Portsmouth, aren't in the top 10 or whatever the top, whatever the stat was there, but
yeah,
they've gone away to a big club and smashed them there. They've more than given the leaders a game here in a proper sort of basketball style game. Not bothered about that one. But yeah, we know where the problems are. Conceding goals at silly times. Paul Cook suggested it's maybe a bit of a concentration thing that he and his staff need to sort out with the players. So I don't know how you go about doing that other than just being very firm with your football players and tell them that once you've scored a goal, let's not do anything silly. But yeah, I think we said that, I don't know if it was the last pod or the one before, talking about Paul Lambert's team. There were so many problems with that team. It just wasn't a functioning football team. At least in this one, you know where those issues are and what needs to be sorted.
Stu, am I being naive there? You've played football at a decent level, once scoring in a
Has he?
high-profile charity game, as I seem to remember. Didn't you play against the lad? What's his name? Who did you play against in that game? Who's gone on to decent things?
Harry Pell, we mentioned.
That's it, Harry Pell. Harry Pell, yeah. So you played at a level, boy. You played. Yeah. But am I being naive there by saying clearly we know where Town's issues are? They keep conceding goals at stupid times. And to my mind, you'd say, well, that's where we need to concentrate turning things around. But is it that easy? I mean, you can't clearly just say, well, you need to concentrate harder, boys. Come on, play better football for that 5 minutes. What do you make of that?
I think when things, someone's
What?
tummy made
Zach?
a funny little noise there. I think it becomes psychological sometimes in football. If you keep conceding, narratives happen at every team, and if you keep suddenly conceding goals at set pieces, I think the more it happens, the more it's in people's minds that, and that's clearly becoming a factor with Ipswich, that they're sort of at their most vulnerable at key moments in the game. Game management, I think Paul Cook talks about sort of going to we need to have a set that we go to at certain moments in the game, and they need to find that set. We get the lead, then what do we do? Keep the ball. Where do we keep it? In what areas? That's the sort of thing. But I look at the results every week in League One at the moment, and I don't know what it is, but every week there seems to be these sort of basketball type scorelines going on. So many 2-2s and 3-3s and 4-3s. It's not just Ipswich this is happening to. I don't know if this is a post-COVID phenomenon with sort of crowds back, and it's changing the way that teams are approaching football matches. I really don't know. Wycombe, have just had a 3-3 draw at the weekend against Fleetwood, and I read that Gareth Ainsworth was talking about that finishing like a basketball match, sort of end-to-end stuff. So, Ipswich have got a few questions to answer still at the moment. But before I went away, we were talking that they'd started to answer a few of those. The next big ones are the game management in certain moments in the game. Can they get beyond that hurdle and change that narrative? And beating the team sort of above them in the league as well. That needs to happen because, as Andy says, that everything is framed by our sort of emotions are framed by past disappointments, aren't they? And I think it's deep cynicism built in everyone that, it's Ipswich and, there's always a disappointment around the corner. There's always a false dawn. So that needs to come from on the pitch at the moment. And they've started to change everybody, and you can see that from the attendances and the travelling, which, to be fair, Ipswich have always done. But hopefully they just start to tick off a few more of these questions as the season goes along. So big game tomorrow, but won't be an easy one. Wycombe like Plymouth are flying as well.
Well, let's talk about that then, Stu, being as you give them the segue. Hutchie, Ipswich Town have another chance to get a statement result against a side that are doing well in the league. Wycombe, third place, just drawn 3-3 with Fleetwood at the weekend, as Stu says. This game, it's clearly not a must win, but is it a can't really afford to lose game for Town?
Yes and no. Of course, they can afford to lose it.
Well, yeah, technically they can afford to lose. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, but no, of course, after a defeat, you want to bounce back with something other than a defeat, don't you? It's going to be a very different game, I think. Perhaps a bit more physical, rather than Plymouth, which is a bit more, I'd say maybe a bit more technical. So it's going to be interesting to see how they react to that one. It's going to, I think, going into it, I would have taken a point from both, which is why my £1 million picks bet this week was to go unbeaten in them both. I was thinking 2 draws, but I don't think they necessarily now need to just go to this one and come away with a 3-0 win or all is lost. I'd actually, as much as 3 points would be very handy, I'd actually quite like to see them go there and kind of grind out a draw and get and manage the game really nicely and get through it and maybe prove that they can do that in that sense. Clearly 3 points would be much more useful, but there's ways of winning games, there's ways of losing games, and there's ways of drawing them. And I think in an isolated one, a draw, I'd be happy with a draw as long as it came in the right way. But 3 points is huge. They've given themselves work to do, haven't they? So they need, at some point, they need to do it.
Yeah. When I say can't afford, I mean clearly they can afford to lose this game, but I'm talking about narratives again. They've just lost at Plymouth at the league leaders, which we're all saying in the grand scheme of things is not that worrying of a result given the way they lost and the issues they had. But if they go to Wycombe now and lose, and then we've got the old top 10 stats starting to rear its head. And then obviously they've got the FA Cup this weekend at Oldham, a competition that, another stat here from Carl, if you took the records of all 92 league clubs in the FA Cup and stacked them up over the last 19 games, Ipswich Town would be rock bottom of those 92 clubs. So not high hopes, you would say, for the weekend. And if they go and then don't get a result in the FA Cup off the back of losing at Wycombe, losing at Plymouth, then the old narrative winds up again, doesn't it? And we're starting to move back towards negativity. Rossi, how important is it that Town stop the bleeding at Wycombe tomorrow?
Very important. I wasn't getting carried away when we beat Portsmouth and we beat Fleetwood. I was hoping. Is my internet going a bit weird? Mine's a bit slow.
We can still hear you.
You can still hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're fine now. Anyways, it's very important. Wycombe, I've still got nightmares of from the game we played against them on Sky because of the 5-year Paul Lambert contract. We've still got scars from that. But Wycombe has always been that team. It's a little bit of a mini rivalry because of the fans and talking points going into these games. The 0-0. Was it at Portman Road with the referee's decision, the penalty, and all that? That always going to be talked about going into these games. Wycombe always been a bit of a bogey side, even though we've not lost against them. It's always been a bogey side. It's a big game. I'm looking forward to it.
Wycombe's run at home is remarkable. They've played 6-1-6 at Adams Park in the league this season. They won their final 2 home league games in the Championship where they finished quite strongly but weren't quite able to stay up. And they've won a trophy game there as well. So it's 9 straight home wins in all competitions for them. So that gives you an idea of the task that Ipswich are up against. Tomorrow it's going to be, I think, their biggest home midweek attendance in almost 20 years, they've said, obviously with an 1,800 away sellout again from the magnificent Ipswich travelling support. So we're going to have a good atmosphere under the lights against a team that's doing really well at home. As Andy says, it's a completely different type of game, this one. I think Wycombe are more direct. They put the ball on top of you. I think that's something that maybe Ipswich have struggled against. If you look back earlier in the season, the sort of the Burton, the Cheltenham, the Accrington type away games, they've not dealt with that particularly well. So I really hope Genoy is is back involved again. I think that's quite a big one. It sounds like Sam Vokes is he played on the left at the weekend, so that would be quite interesting if they're, if Genoy's not available and they're sticking big Diags on top of sort of the experienced Sam Vokes out on that side. So very hard to prepare for Wycombe as well, because I think they've played various different formations. I think they've played 4 at the back 6 times, and they've played wing backs 9 times. And Gareth Ainsworth said at the weekend that he quite likes the idea that managers are not able to kind of work out what they're preparing against. So a tricky game, this one. But Ipswich have got goals in them, so you can never rule Ipswich out. They go to Portsmouth and win 4-0. So you never know what's going to happen with Ipswich at the moment, and I quite like that.
Someone's been doing their research this morning, Stu. You've got bang on it since getting back, doing all your reading up on Wycombe. Fantastic stuff. Excellent stats. Hutchie, what would you do with the side? I know we don't know injury-wise what's happening, and whether or not Donasian and Burns are going to be back. Clearly, if they're fit and well, they'll be starting, you'd imagine, on the right-hand side. What other tinkering, if any, would you do?
I think the Donasian is supremely important. Didn't Sam Vokes play left of midfield essentially at the weekend? So that could be a really big battle. They need that one, because as much as Luke Wolfenden has his defensive qualities, he's not an aerial dominator particularly. If that right side's available, I'd restore it. I'd have Burns and Donasian in there at a shot. And then I think it's still back to the same question again, that left wing position. For me, Edwards hasn't done enough to nail it. I don't know how long you can ignore Selina for a start. And I don't know how many other options you've really got there. In terms of if you're trying to deal with physicality, could you look at Coulson playing on the left? I'm not sure he's up for another start in 3 days. So I think he may well name the side that he hoped to name at Plymouth, but with potentially Selina on the left instead of Edwards. That would be my guess.
How are we feeling about Evans and Morsey as they kind of nailed on starting midfielders in that deep 2 in the 4-2-3-1? Stu, are you quite happy with it? How they've been performing?
Yeah, I haven't obviously seen the last couple of games, but I felt like they were starting to find their feet as a pair. Hopefully there's more to come from them, but Evans has scored a hat-trick against Doncaster. I thought he was arguably their best player, or certainly one of their best players at Portsmouth in that away display as well. I think he's quite crucial to switching the play, which is massive for sort of Paul Cook. Obviously it's not like Tom Carroll's fit at the moment, sort of knocking on the door. There's I think Idris has done well in the games that he's come in for, but probably not well enough to be sort of putting any serious pressure on those two at the moment. Nolan's obviously still injured, so I don't think there's a massive alternative there at the moment.
No, I don't think there's a question there either. Even if there was an alternative, I think that's absolutely fine. That doesn't need playing with that area.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have Carroll as an option, because I think that, we talked about game management and sometimes just keeping the ball and taking the sting out of games. And I think Carroll provides a different option there, someone who can just comfortably receive the ball off the defence, and, he's not going to give it away. And sometimes he might be that sort of calm head that's required in certain moments in games. So, kind of forget that he's one of the ones that's not available and was just starting to do quite well before he was injured. But yeah, there's not really any viable options there at the moment beyond those two.
Is Rakeem the Dream definitely not even in consideration for that slot anymore, Hutchie? Is he now very much?
I think he's in consideration for it, but I don't think he's done anywhere near enough to be pushing either of them out. He came on at the weekend for Evans and was a bit more forward thinking. I think that was probably the thinking with that one to it proved he got through on goal and really should have equalised. But no, I don't.
How did Chaplin play, Andy, at the weekend?
Very quiet.
Well, here's another viable option for you. You mentioned Rakeem Harper, just as a tough away game that's going to be physical. could you put Harper in as the 10 inverted commas, and it's almost more of a midfield 3, and then you could almost put Chaplin out wide left if you wanted to as well, who's played there before, or that's another option that's maybe a bit more of a pragmatic option for this sort of game.
Yeah, I could see that potentially. I don't see any route for Harper at the moment into a midfield 2, but Chaplin was really quiet. When he did get on the ball, his touch was good. He took up good positions and used it well enough, but he was really quiet in this one. So you'd have to have him in the team though, Stu, wouldn't you? He's had one off game that was on form prior to that. You'd have to have him in the team. So if you did bring in Harper, I think your scenario there of switching him to one of the wide positions would probably have to happen, because you're going to want that boy in the team at the moment.
I'd like to see Raheem at the 10. It'd be interesting. Okay then, boys. So Wycombe it is tomorrow night. Hutchie, we already know that your £1 million picks from last week is dead in the water. They lost at Plymouth. That's not what you wanted. You went double chance, and you've come away with no chance from that. Are you going to spunk some more cash? Try and get back in the win column against Wycombe. What are you saying?
Well, I was thinking I probably wouldn't, but I might just get a little bit of spare change out, just a spare 20k, and
what is that noise?
Ross, is that you tapping your leg?
It's me. Oh, sorry.
That
was just me on the mouse. Sorry.
It's like a little rumble. So, I'm going to put some money. I'm going to take a little 20k out the kitty, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go Maverick. The price is 3-1. And I think Joe Pigott might score a goal in this game. Just score a goal at any time at 3-1, £20,000. Just because.
Off the bench, I assume.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Off the bench. Just yeah. So yeah, just a little one, just to have some chips on the table.
Some fun cash involved in this game. Right then, should we do predictions? Wycombe away tomorrow night. We're going to come to you first of all, Hutchie, because you've told us Joe Pigott's going to score. So, what do you reckon for this one?
I think it's going to be a draw, and I think Pigott's going to score an equaliser for 2-2. The classic Ipswich 2-2.
Desmond's. Ross is back on his mouse.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Stewie, what are you saying? Hutchie's going 2-2.
I think they might lose 2-1, Mark.
Oh, that's thoroughly underwhelming.
Sorry.
Somewhat deflating. Okay, so you're saying 2-1 defeat. So back-to-back defeats, says Stewie. Rossi, what are you saying?
Come on, the boys. 3-2 win. Loads of goals. Late winner. Let's do it.
Late winner, 3-2. That's the kind of thing we like on this show. I'm going to say a draw, I think. I think a draw would be a decent result. I'm going to say 1-1 just to mix it up. Boys, can we also reflect before we take our leave today? A couple of other reasons to be positive. Armando Dobra scored an absolute belter at the weekend. And you know where I'm going next, don't you, boys? You know where I'm going next. Drizzy, Dresnaldo, can't think of any other nicknames I used to call him. But anyway, he got a hat-trick and 2 assists.
Drizzy Rascal.
Drizzy Rascal, that's it, yeah. Hat-trick and 2 assists at the weekend, boys. He is absolutely on fuego. His shorts are on fire at Leyton Orient. Macaulay Bonne is useless now. He hasn't scored for 2 games. Where is Drynan? Let's get the boy back. Yes, let's invest some cash. He can do He can do the business. He's proving it in League 2. League 1 is a short step up for the boy Drynan. Bring him back. What are you saying, Hutchie?
Good goals as well. A couple of them in particular were really nice goals. The first one was nice, and then there was another one where he kind of a goalkeeper bad ball out from the goalkeeper or something, and he kind of took a really nice touch and curled it in. Yeah, it's going all right. It's going all right for him. I'm amazed you didn't open the show with it. And we waited till 50 minutes in to get to it. But yeah, he did. He certainly had a very, very good weekend, didn't he? Have you been down there yet?
Not been down there yet, but obviously I've got my Leyton Orient shirt with Drynan on the back. He's got to be the front runner for Ballon d'Or, wouldn't you say, boys, this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
100%. Another.
Can I give mention to some others as well? Tyree Simpson.
I was just about to say Tyree Simpson.
Sorry, I've stolen that. Yeah, he scored a brace at Oldham at the weekend, so he's on 6 for the season now at Swindon. So be interesting to see what how the rest of his season goes and whether he can come back into the plans. But thought I'd give him a mention. I think Thomas Holy had quite a good debut for Cambridge by all accounts. Pulled off one particularly good eye-catching save from what I've seen. So mention for those two as well.
There you go. And we should also mention, in terms of dotting the T's and dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the competition, for the Chambers and Skuse Bowl a week tomorrow, boys. The big game of the season. Kings of Anglia, big giveaway for that game. Competition winners were announced on Friday. They found out Lynette Doman and Gavin Turner both won a pair of tickets to the game. They were ecstatic, as you may imagine, and have both promised that they'll share some pictures of them enjoying the Chambers Bowl on the night. Of course, Luke Chambers will be at Sudbury on Friday night, boys, and that'll be interesting to watch, won't it? So from a big FA Cup clash at Sudbury, live on the TV, BBC Two, I think it is, Friday night, to the pizza platter at Portman Road on Tuesday night in front of many members of the KOA Army. Huge game, that. Biggest game of the season so far, I reckon. Boys, any other business before we take our leave and get on to writing about Wycombe?
No other business for me.
No other business from me.
I just want to mention, of course, the Ipswich Town women team. They beat Plymouth.
Of course.
So they
didn't just
5-0 win.
Yeah, they didn't just beat Plymouth, they destroyed them. As is their want. I mean, they're just cutting like a knife through butter through this league, aren't they, Hutchie? Rossi?
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, echo Andy's thoughts there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What is it? Is it just too good for this? Because it's really only Southampton, isn't it, that are any cop in this league, it appears.
I think once again, it's not being arrogant, it's not being cocky. I think the team is just too good. And they were in the league below for too long. We had the COVID situation, so they had to have a season in that league. But it was a good experience for the players because they're playing in a football league stadium, playing at home park, which is great for them. Yeah. And I also want to give a big shout out to Liam from Crewe, who was my driver on Friday and Sunday. So big up Liam, he'll be listening. Good driver, well played, my friend.
When are you gonna dispense with the need for a driver and get yourself a grand pay rise, Ross, just by passing your driving test?
It's coming soon. It's coming soon, hopefully. But I've got to pass it first time. If I don't, then second time, third time, fourth time. We'll see how long it takes me.
That is the way it works. It goes first, second, third, fourth time. Yeah. Are you confident? Is it penciled in yet?
Yeah, it's penciled in for this month, so hopefully, fingers crossed. But we'll wait and see. Oh, yeah,
it's going to be live streamed.
We should. I'm just thinking we should live stream it. You boys could go and tweet about it. Driving test live.
Can we sit in the back seat?
Yeah.
Vlog
I think
or something.
I think that'll add more pressure. I think, but
it might bring the best out of you.
I want to see a verdict, a post-driving test verdict from you boys.
We'll record a pod in the back while you're doing it. That'll be fine, won't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the instructor will be okay with it. Oh no, he's hit a curb. He's failed. Oh no. Yeah.
Did we all pass first time driving test, boys? Just to heat pressure on Rossi?
No.
Second. Okay. My first was I failed quite miserably on my first attempt.
You didn't clip a pedestrian, did you?
No, but I think I made some. But I think I maybe had 2 or 3 majors. I knew it had gone early doors, and then head's gone. Second half collapse.
Yeah, that is the worst. I think I failed coming out of the test centre on just didn't leave enough room to. I pulled out into not enough room.
Rossi, what are the, because obviously on the test back in the day when I did it, which is in black and white, when I did it was that long ago now, the things you had to do were 2 of 3. There was the emergency stop, there was the parallel park, and there was reversing round the corner. As far as I remember.
Don't you think you have to do the last one now?
You no longer have to reverse round a corner.
No, I don't think so.
Surely you should still be doing that.
Yeah, I think you do it just as a lesson, but I think it's just random on the test. I think they pick whatever you want to do.
What do you excel at, Ross? Are you good at parallel parking? Because I've got to be honest, I've been a driver for more than 20 years and I still can't parallel park to save my life.
I'm not too bad. Whitby, who's a big town fan, he's my driving instructor. I think I'm okay. I think just general driving, I'm fine. I think, I don't think I excel at anything. I think I'm just fine at everything.
You struggle in front of goal. When it gets to the big
much.
to the big moments in both boxes, you're
if I have a moment where I panic, that's when it takes me 10 minutes to get over it, and I have to just have a nice little just slow drive, and then we then boom back in full throttle. And
Don't go on
for
full
it.
throttle.
No,
No,
You've-
not that.
haven't you got to know now about the engine and things like that as well? Because again,
Yeah,
back in the
apparently,
day,
apparently you
Pre-
have to, yeah.
pre-game back in my day, all you had to do was read a registration number from across the street. But now, as I understand it, you've got to point out what's what in the engine, haven't you?
Yeah, apparently. So I'm gonna fail that then.
I just see that
That's the spirit.
the instructor just asking, what's this? And Ross going, the engine. There you go. What more do you want? I know where it is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where the steering wheel is in a minute.
Yeah.
Right then, boys. What a big month in store. Town at Wycombe tomorrow. The Luke Chambers Coles Hughes Bowl coming up a week on Tuesday. And biggest of all, Ross Hall's tackles the driving test at some point this month. And obviously, we'll let you know what happens there. Thanks for listening today. Remember to support our sponsors. That's manscaped.com. Use the code COA for 20% off and free delivery at manscaped.com. Also, follow us across all our social medias, Kings of Anglia on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Stu's put his hand up. Do you need the toilet?
No, before we go, can I just say, give all our very best wishes to Kieran Dyer and from everyone here at KOA, just to say, get well soon. Obviously, the news he's going to be needing a liver transplant, which I think shocked us all. So, yeah, I think from all of us and all the town fans out there, wishing him the very best going forwards with that.
100%. On that note, then, boys, that brings us up to hour. Have a great start to the week. Fingers crossed, Town get the result tomorrow night, and we'll be back to break it all down on Thursday.